Specific steps should you take as a long-term real estate investor to deal with the impact of the coronavirus crisis on your tenants, on your investment properties, and your real estate investment portfolio as a whole? Hey everybody, this is Arion with investingarchitect.com. And in the last few days, I've been getting that question very often from clients and investors that are very concerned about the impact that the current situation and the prospect of, maybe shelter-in-place rules or lockdown rules might have on their tenants' ability to pay their rent, which then impacts their ability to pay their mortgage, as well as their ability to go to work and earn an income that might be needed to backstop any of those missed payments. So there's a lot of uncertainty in the air. So I thought I'd do a quick video to share with you the three important C's that you need to consider and you need to practice during a time of crisis like this. The first C, right, is communication. And it's a little bit it goes counter to our normal tendency in a crisis, which is to kind of withdraw and not communicate because we don't want to find out bad news. We don't want to call the tenant for fear that they might tell us that their employment might be affected. You don't want to call your lender because you might find out that they might not have any options for you. But what you want to do in a time of crisis like this is you want to over communicate. So my advice to you is call your tenants and find out how are they doing, right? So treat this like a natural disaster. Like if there was a hurricane, you'd call your tenant and say, hey, how are you guys doing? How are you dealing with this? And talk to them at a human level, at a personal level, and find out what's going on, right? The second communication that you should do is talk to your lender, and ahead of the time that you might need them, and call them and say, hey, I'm concerned that my tenants are not going to be able to pay their rent, and therefore that's going to impact my ability to pay the mortgage. Are you guys offering any options to maybe defer payments or freeze them or anything that might make the situation a little bit easier on your end, because, at the end of the day, if the tenants don't have the income coming in, they can't pay the rent. And even if they have some income coming in, they might have this impulse to kind of hold on to their money as long as possible. So this is a very real possibility. So you've got to communicate both with every stakeholder. You got to communicate with your tenants, and you got to communicate with your lender to find out what options are there to make it through this crisis for on both of those fronts. The second C that you should consider is cash. So cash is king in these types of situations, right? So you have to understand that when you go into a crisis, the main goal, the main objective becomes to get through the crisis, to make it through, to survive. All of the other metrics that we use, return on investment and vacancy and turnover and all those things, those are for, regular peacetime, if you will, situations. But when you're in a wartime situation like this, right, it's a war against a virus, but in this type of a crisis, the main key is for you and your tenants to make it through it and get over on the other side. And the way that you do that is by preserving your cash position, by making your cash position as strong as it can be. So the way to do that is if you're doing any sort of a domino strategy right now where you're collecting the cash flow from all your properties and paying off one of the mortgages, you want to pause that at the moment and return the payments to the minimum amount that you can pay and build up your cash position as much as you can. The second thing you want to do is cut out any unnecessary expenses. So go through your budget, figure out, is there anything that can be cut down that it's not necessary during this time to basically reduce your burn rate and to preserve your cash as long as possible. And the third C and the final step that I wanted to offer you is you've got to stay calm, because when we're in a state of fear and gripped by panic, we tend to default to short-term thinking. That's just an old survival mechanism that helped us when our ancestors risked getting eaten by lions in prehistoric times. but it also explains more modern behavior, like people clearing out toilet paper aisles and water bottle aisles, or selling their stocks in the worst possible time. So what you have to do is focus on what you can control, stay calm, right? Focus on your cash position and communicate. I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any other questions about how to deal with the situation, anything more specific that you want me to address, please put it in the comments and I'll be happy to address it for you. We're going to make it through this. So hang in there and take care of yourself and take care of each other.